Amy, you look like you were itching to ask questions.
Yeah, I was itching. You know, Sarah made a point earlier when she was like, we have to hold black men accountable, you know, especially in the sense of absentee fathers, you know, and this is true, but I also feel we have to hold black women accountable as well, especially in the United States. I see a lot of black women having multiple kids out of wedlock with different men, you know, as was said earlier, you might not even know who the father is. And that ultimately is breaking down the family system that we need to actually build our children and prepare them for success. If you don't have the father in the picture, if you don't know who the father is, if you have multiple children by multiple men, and I'm not just talking, yeah, of course you might have, you know, you could remarry or have further relations, but I'm talking to the point where you've got 4 children by 4 different men. We need to hold the black woman accountable as well, because ultimately we are the gatekeepers for black families. There are no black families without the black woman. So yes, let's hold the absentee fathers accountable, but let's also hold black women accountable for who they choose to procreate with and how they set up these black family unions. You know, you don't see white people having, well, rarely, you do see it in certain parts of the country, but you don't see a lot of white people having 8 children that they struggle to financially take care of. However, you do see it in the black community. You know,
but I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so for me, I think that I appreciate that that's but it's almost like that. I'd rather kind of like, I don't know the statistics in the UK or in America of the amount of black women that have 8 children, different dads. So I'm quite careful about
statistics for the UK families. 1 in 2
yeah.
Afro-Caribbean families are single parents, of which 11% are father-headed. So the majority of single parent families in the UK of Afro-Caribbean descent are mother-headed.
So do you know the comparison to white families? Do you know the statistics on the white families that are single parented?
I do not.
Okay, that's all right, but I can definitely tell you that the problem that I raised about multiple children out of wedlock with different men, it's certainly stronger in America. I don't know, I don't have like facts and figures to hand, but it is prevalent. And you know, we have to hold the black men accountable as well, because black men aren't marrying these black women that they are having children with. Why is that? You know, why are you procreating? Why are both black men and black women procreating and creating kids without setting up a stable family structure for these kids to excel in? And yes, marriage might not be necessary for, you know, excelling to actually happen, but we need presence. We need both parents to be there, and having multiple men and multiple baby mamas helps nobody.
Right, yeah. So should we move on to talking a little bit about you know, how we do this community building, you know how we can approach business ownership and all this kind of thing. I mean, Jade, what are your thoughts around, you know, black owned businesses and like the legal system, you know, how that supports black owned businesses or hinders them?
Well, I definitely think that, you know, ownership of business is so important for the black community. And actually, probably controversially enough, I think the pedestal of owning any kind of business is actually owning the means of production of food. When it comes down to it, we all rely on food. If all of the properties disappear tomorrow, we will still need food, we will still need water. And, you know, it's just an area of business that we don't own anymore in the United States. It's definitely something we don't do in the UK. I don't know how many black farmers you're very aware of, but you know, in 1910 in the US, 1 million black farmers owned 15 million acres of farmland, and then by 1969, they only owned 6 million acres. So today, there are only 18,000 black farmers actually owning the means of production of food. And what we're seeing in these sort of, as I think is a direct relation to this, we're getting these large areas where it's predominantly black, and you're getting food deserts. You're getting people who are undernourished on food stamps, probably don't know how to grow their own food, and essentially move away from a system that is designed to exploit and extract from them. You know, in the US, black Americans have 1.2 trillion pounds worth of spending power. Where is that all going? It's not going back into the black community on whole. So I think really what we need to do is start looking into ways we can pool our money and help people to buy businesses that, you know, are helping to provide to the community. Because it's only until we own the means of production that we're really going to have an equal voice in any conversation. And a big example of that is ALEC. It's an organisation that basically works along the legislative system in order to put forward laws. And it's this organisation that isn't a government body in the US, but it's made up of, or it was previously made up of companies like Walmart, you know, private prisons, so many different brands that you use daily, but they're all sitting there writing laws together, and they're all founded with private companies. You know, we're not getting a part of that conversation because we don't have private companies to contribute, to help to form the laws that essentially help to free us, make it easier for us to move around economically, especially in the United States. And, you know,
Sorry, can't finish. No, I was going to say, it's like, you know, I was watching this on the 13th on Netflix, and I do think that that's a good thing, that we are having a lot more educational programs and things like that that are actually designed, or they're kind of palatable because they're on a platform like Netflix that is widely accepted. People are more likely to digest it. But I was going to say, like, what do you think about the fact that, because you're talking about the black-owned foods, and it's really interesting because obviously a lot of the hotter countries, or the tropical countries that grow some of the foods that we can't grow here in England, for whatever reason, even though they are operating on an import-export basis, it seems like the person who's growing it internationally isn't really reaping the financial benefits and things like that. I mean, why do you think that is? I mean, is it something you can even comment on? I mean,
a lot of this is down to, you know, labour rates in these countries, which we've previously like ravaged. We've left arid zones in terms of economic stability in these places. I say we, I mean the European
Western world,
the heads of states that have really made the decisions to go in, mess everything up, come out and go, oh no, look at those Africans, look how savage they are. Well, but do you know what? They weren't savage before you came in and stopped them knowing how to grow their own food, feed their own babies. Remember the whole Nestle scandal?
Yeah,
all of those
rob their commodities
to use powdered formula instead of breast milk, and then relied on this powdered formula to feed their babies. Yeah, do you know, there's just a big history of the West going in, kicking everything over and going, oh, who did that? You did that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like, bearing in mind that we know that Africa was the most rich in commodities and you know, a lot of you know, even like gold, diamonds, a lot of these commodities that we, you know, make huge profits from in the Western world. The fact that they were obviously, you know, sorry, Sarah, you have some point to add?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing. Sorry, I know I just popped off and I'm
I
now
know,
I'm
right? Everyone's all waiting.
No, come on,
a juicy conversation, you know. I can... Oh no, I just to Jay's and your point as well. Like, I fully agree, but like, I just can't help but feel like, okay, why do our African leaders feel so comfortable allowing the Western countries to just come in and do whatever? I mean, like, even whenever they. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, who's going to take this stand? When are we going to get more Mandelas and more like, I mean, it just needs, there needs to be like a real ethical
leadership
and authority that means that we're not, you know, being bent over and fucked backwards, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think the issue, just to highlight on what Jade and Sarah have said, I think the issue is our people and our leaders, we don't read the fine print. We don't think about the long-lasting effects of the decisions we make today. You know, it's like, yes, slavery was a huge, huge issue for our community and our people, but do you know that Black leaders sold their people into slavery to buy guns, to buy food, and to buy technology that the Western world brought over? You know, like, we sometimes are our own worst enemies. Like, we need to do better as a people. We need to read the contracts, read the fine print. It comes back to what you said about ownership earlier on. Like, why we as Black people, we're the biggest consumers. Nobody spends their money as fast as we do. You know, you said we spent 1.2 trillion in the US. I can easily believe that. You know, the dollar will change hands 9 times in the Jewish community before it will leave that community. Only once in the Black community. And that we have to hold ourselves accountable for. Our mainstream media, the people that represent us in the mainstream media, our rappers, our actors, they glorify a lifestyle of buying wealth that depreciates in value. It's a lack of education. They glorify buying jewelry, they glorify buying fancy cars, they glorify buying sneakers. These are all things that do not accrue to real wealth. These are all
and they don't hold value or increase in value. As soon as you purchase them, they begin to drop in value. But then I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that a lot of our mainstream, you know, a lot of the Black people in the mainstream community, the entertainers, you know, the basketball players, the football players, a lot of them do come from a background where they did not have much. A lot of them came from projects and you know, a lower economic standpoint. And I think without the education, the money, you're just going to be like, well, let me have the things I've never thought I'd dream of being able to own. It's that instant greed. No one's taught you how to invest. No one's taught you how to save, or to you know, how to kind of you know, just use your money in a constructive way to accrue value and wealth. So I think that, you know, a lot of it comes down to that.
And can I add on to just the slight inferiority complex that I feel like a lot of us have as well, because it's exactly, it's like, oh gosh, like I've been spat on and shat on all my life. Like, people now look at me. I'm going to prove that I've got, you know, the best rims on my car or whatever it is, you know, that's in right now, or grills on your teeth. So it's kind of a,
we have to
find a nice balance there, you know.
we have to hold ourselves accountable, because generational wealth is such a real thing, and white families do so well at this. You know, you inherit from your grandparents. This will allow you to get on the property ladder. This will make your life easier. This will make starting a family something you can do sooner. You know, passing on the wealth that we accrue. How are you going to pass on, you know, grills and all the damage you got in your teeth, and, you know, all the chains? Like, we need to put our wealth into something we can actually pass on to our kids, our grandchildren, and that will actually continue to grow our wealth as a people. Not just keep the money within our community, but actually accrue real wealth. And we do see, like, I know you said, like, a lot of the people that represent us in mainstream media don't have the education. True, but I'm thankful for people like Dr. Dre, who have founded Beats by Dre. Thankful for people like 50 Cent, who created that.
And Jay-Z.
Jay-Z is a great entrepreneur.
You know, Kanye West, who owns Yeezys. I'm thankful that our people are learning to do better, but we need them to also promote and educate the people that they reach on a mass scale. Like,
use their influence to educate.
And can I go a little bit further as well? And like we know about celebrities and, you know, people who are, you know, entertainers, because they're more on the forefront. So there's nothing wrong with accelerating that. But I think there needs to be a level of, you know, really praising our Black scientists and our amazing lawyers and our Barack Obamas, who, hell yeah, you know, president, academia, you know, that's like the highest thing you can do, right? So it's like, in a way, I mean, it's easy to say we've got no excuse, but I don't want to go down that route, because it's like, like, systemic oppression is different from like, like just because one Black person has been become president, it doesn't mean that like reflects on every single
it's a very much a minority.
But like, I just feel like even Ben Carson now, for example, who I know a lot of people don't like, he's a brain surgeon. I mean, okay, he supports Trump, but he's a brain surgeon who's kind of risen to the ranks of politics, and like we should laud him as a real, you know,
Celebrate.
figure. But I think because he's on the right of, you know, the political spectrum, it's kind of like, oh well, screw him, you know.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but I also think in that sense, I think what it is that because the modern day generation, you know, not just Black but in general, consume media so much, I think that is why a lot of the figures that are Black and are successful financially are the people that, you know, they live in the media. They are those musicians and the, you know, the actors and the, you know, the ball players or whatever. Whereas a lot of the, you know, the people who are the academics, they're not gonna, we don't see them as much because they're not in that media a lot of the time. I mean, it goes back to even, I mean, if you look at back ancient Egyptian days, I mean, I was brought up looking at images of, you know, Nubian queens and ancient Egyptians, how we discovered medicines and like blood transfusions and sciences and astrology. I was brought up with that. A lot of people, they know we were slaves once. And they know that, you know, the people that have done really well are, you know, they play basketball, they got scholarship. And so in their head, that's the route to success. That's what's being like drummed into them. That's what they see every time they go on their social media. They're not really getting, you know, they're not going to the workshops and the forums and hearing those really influential Black men talk about, you know, business ownership and things. So I think it's hard for them to access the information, even if it's available sometimes.
And I guess that's why we have forums like this, so we can like encourage people to the variety of amazing Blackness, because it's not just entertainment. So that's why, you know, we kind of create the narrative for
more positive narrative.
You know, we're not all basketball players, we're not all rappers, we're not all strippers. You know, we don't shake our asses on music videos. We create, you know, amazing skincare products. We're business leaders. We're
managers in big corporations.
We're tech leaders. I mean, look at the just amazing Black entrepreneurs at even Facebook, Google, and Apple, and
So it really does actually lead to questions for me about the standards we're setting for ourselves. And it probably, what I'm saying is probably quite different to what Mimi and Sarah, what you're saying, but this is probably because I feel like I like to lie outside of that sort of centrist left and right view of the world. I do think it overall is sort of leading to more problems than it is good, but that's a story for another day. But a lot of these aspirations that we do have, they are really within European capitalist frameworks. So that's currently our measuring stick. Maybe it's asking a bit too much before we've even reached that sort of first hurdle of this part of the race, and before asking, like, what can we design to aspire to that actually speaks to the African, the Black, that soul, you know, what actually speaks to us, how we've worked in the past, how can we evolve that and push that? Because there have been instances where we've competed, you know, Black Wall Street, very big example of how we've pushed the boundaries in terms of finances, which of course we all know was burnt to the ground by racist whites. And it almost feels like each time we try and compete in this system, there's something else that's thrown in the way or acting as a setback for us to actually advance. You know, we are business people, we are hard workers. I mean, a lot of us were moved over to one point or another in order to work really hard. That's the purpose we were sent there for, to work hard without pay. Now, if you think about all of the wealth that would have amassed had our great grandmummy been paid the wage that she deserved for doing all of the laboral tasks, from picking the cotton to raising the next slave babies, how much money would we actually have now in our pockets? And, you know, people really don't want to talk about this because they say, oh, well, that was slavery, that was ages ago. I mean, it may be ages ago, but do you not, I'm speaking to some of you out here, do you not understand how humans work? That a human has a baby, human has a baby, human has a baby, human, and you pass on the parenting techniques from that line. If it's built on you know,
Poverty.
on the back
Trauma.
of slavery, on trauma from the first instance.
Yeah.
What are we going to be teaching from generation to generation? I think
Yeah.
now we've got a generation of us with social media to be able to say, right, no, we're putting our foot down. But for me, personally, I don't know if the European capitalist framework is particularly for me. I'm working as hard as I can right now to go off-grid. I'm not putting any more money back into this system. You're laughing. I'm saving.
No, I agree.
I love it. I love it.
I'm not
Don't get me
putting
wrong.
any more of my wages, my money, my soul, my mental health, dragging me through this system. God, these white people.
That wasn't even designed for,
These white
really.
people, no one's designed for this. White people treat their own white people like shit, and then they treat us like extra shit. But you know, we're sort of pegged as the instigators, the violent ones, the arbiters of causing all of the crime, as we have this really sort of crime-centric focus.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep.
Yeah, I agree. I think
That gave me some food for thought. That's really deep. But I have to ask though, Jade, I mean, like how would you live in a society that is only well, you only give your money to Black-owned businesses, which I think is kind of possible. I mean, there are so many amazing restaurants and, you know, clothing brands, and you can rent from a Black homeowner or a home housing association. I completely understand how you can source your food even from a Black-owned business. But in terms of, you know, like an economic standpoint, how do you envision living in a way that's as close to our ancestors did in a capitalist society?
I think, you know, we have this scheme in the UK. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. It's ELCs. They're basically these housing associations where a bunch of people will put their money together to buy acres of land, and what they're able to do is agree within the community how many houses they're allowed to put up on this land, you know, if they're putting businesses on this land, what other initiatives or schemes that they want to do within this space. And then what they're able to do from there is essentially have this own little community. And you're seeing, you don't hear about this a lot in the media, probably because it's quite counterintuitive to continuing to fund the system we live in, from which everyone right now is paid, including the media. But there are lots of these communities like popping up all around the world where you're getting people going, right, no, I'm done. I'm not putting my labour into this horrible exploitative system. A lot of these people will work 25 hours a week and then the rest of the time is theirs. So it's a lot more of a balanced system. And I think that's what we need to be doing. But then it sort of leads to the question, how are we getting this money in the first instance? Now, I just want to point everyone towards the fact that there is actually a lot of money sitting in the Black community. A lot of it is actually made on the Black market from laws that were actually put into place to make us easier to arrest, for doing things that, you know, our white counterparts proportionately do at the same rates or higher. You know, I don't think I've ever been to a party where there isn't some very overprivileged white boy, Oxbridge, who's sticking white powder up his nose. Can anyone say Boris Johnson? So these people are enjoying a lot of these things while imprisoning everyone else who doesn't like fit into their Bullingdon Club format. And
I mean, I think, so I agree with that, but I think it's interesting because I think, yeah, absolutely, they make it more impossible for Black people to function in the ways that, you know, are traditionally, you know, what we've done, whether it is to do with Black market goods or things like that. But I feel like what it is a lot of the time in white communities, they do things in a way where they almost find the loopholes. maybe they don't even need to find loopholes because it's just there for them. But I mean, just for example, so at the moment there's a phenomenon with CBD oil, and it's basically extracting the part of the cannabis that's not the, you know, addictive or bad part, but it has the relaxing, the soothing effect, and it's marketable, it's commercial, you can sell it, and they're able to take something that we've had and grown and had it as our heritage for centuries and create profit off of it, which and hideous, you know, or to plantain chips, where we've been eating that plantain since we were they're making these chips, these white brands are making them and shipping them and selling them, and they're commercializing them, they're rebranding them into this kind of cool, kind of profitable thing. And I think that we also need to get a bit smarter at doing things like that, because it might be easiest for them to find the loopholes, but they are finding ways to take what is essentially our culture and market it in a way that is to their advantage, not ours.
Benefit off of it and then arrest us at expense. I mean, for example, here, you know, in Connecticut, where of course they've arrested black people for, you know, decades now for holding a little bit of weed. A Connecticut application fee to grow weed is about £25,000 cultivation license registration fee, 75,000 annual cultivations license renewal. What black person currently has that 25 grand just sitting in the bank, ready to go and start their legal weed farm? But if you have enough startup, because you've accrued generational wealth, because you are accidentally white, you're able to then invest in a business which everyone else is being arrested for. And so even in states where it's legal at the moment, it's a problem. Here in the UK, I mean, it's not as big, but if you want to grow like hemp's the non THC part of the plant, the licenses cost £580, which, you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are sat in flats in Tottenham growing, you know, they don't have that money legally in the bank where they can go and say, I'm giving you this money, because then the government's going to ask, oh, so where did you get this 580 quid? Oh, also you need a disclosure and barring check. So basically that's to make sure you don't have any previous criminal activity. And it's not allowed in inner city areas where most black people live. So some white people out in the countryside can benefit from this, whereas you know, the people who are in the city and are black will be arrested for it, and because of higher conviction rates, more likely to be convicted.
No, I agree with what you've said entirely, Jade. I think they do criminalize a lot of the businesses and a lot of the, you know, produce or money-making streams that we have done for centuries naturally. They criminalize it when it comes to us, and they make the standard to make it legal so high that a lot of black people are left out of it. But I do feel like as a group of people, we need to be more conscious of where we're spending our money. There are limitations into, you know, how we can make money, but are we as conscious as the Jewish people? Are we as conscious as the white people? Are we as conscious as Chinese people about who we are giving our money to? Like, for instance, Jay-Z owns Tidal. But yeah, how many of us in this chat here are Spotify users? Raise hands. Spotify users?
Oh yeah.
Apple users? Okay.
I had Tidal for a bit and then didn't.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say, like, I'm not gonna trash anybody, but I get your point, but I don't use Tidal for maybe more economic reasons.
Okay, so that also is a point that I'm trying to make. So if you're going to support black businesses, we also have to recognize that there is a reason why those products are going to cost more. There is a reason why black hair brands are going to cost more than Chinese hair brands, because we do not have the manufacturing or production powers that they have. There's a reason why, you know, that makeup brands are going to cost more when they're smaller, because we don't have the manufacturing power that, you know, the ABH or the MAC have. So we have to be conscious as consumers that yes, support black-owned businesses, support black-owned makeup, like maybe Juvia's Place might cost more than supporting white-owned makeup brands, but we are putting that money back into our own community, and in the long term, it's going to benefit people that look like us are children. So I just think we also need to be conscious about this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I agree.